We, members of the Oromo community and civic organizations in the United States, are gathered here to express our dismay and disappointment that the United States government has invited Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, who is responsible for the killings of hundreds of thousands and displacement of millions. We are Oromos. The Oromo make up 40% of Ethiopia's population. This is about 44 million people to the minimum, comparable to the population of Ukraine. Yet, the United States, the United States neglected this majority and remains oblivious to the destiny of this strategically significant and one of the largest populations in the Horn of Africa. To be clear, we are not represented by the conspicuous and well-funded Ethiopian American organizations that claim to speak for the entire Ethiopian diaspora. We are here to express our outrage and strong opposition to the United States' misguided policy of inviting Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and which has culminated in the invitation of the Ethiopian Prime Minister and his representative to the United States African Leaders Summit on December 13 to 15, 2022. For the last 4 years, Western Oromia and Southern Oromia have been under military command posts by supplanting civil administration. The Ethiopian government tried to justify the imposition of military government as a counter-insurgency measures against the Oromo Liberation Army. Amnesty International and other human rights organizations have documented Ethiopian securities have committed human rights violations, abuses, extrajudicial killings, rape, torture, mass arrests, burning villages and displacements under the guise of law enforcement measures. Most of the victims have been students, farmers, members of opposition parties, families of opposition parties, and government employees who are and prisoners under the government itself. So far, the government has neither investigated nor allowed investigation into the crimes its forces or other predators have conducted. The United States has turned a blind eye to human rights violations being perpetrated in Oromia against Oromo civilians. The Ethiopian government, led by the Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, has proved time and again that it is not interested in making peace in Ethiopia and in the Horn of Africa. By cooperating with Isaias Afwerki, it has been conducting devastating wars. By rejecting calls for the dialogue and cessation of hostilities, especially with the Oromo Liberation Army, it continued deploying and using aerial strike and drone attacks against civilians. Hundreds have died, thousands are displaced, millions are hopeless and homeless. So far, hundreds of civilians have lost their lives and thousands displaced from their residences. As this is not bad enough, the Ethiopian government has invited Amhara militia and Fano terrorist group into Oromia from neighboring regional state into Western Oromia. Amhara militia and Fano are committing serious crimes against unarmed Oromo civilians in Wallagga province and Wollo. This week alone, we have received graphic images and videos containing gruesome crimes committed against innocent children, women, and elderly. Due to the conflict, tens of thousands of Oromo community members have been exposed to dire humanitarian catastrophe. The Ethiopian government deliberately blocked humanitarian aid from reaching from reaching Western Oromia and Central Oromia, where people are devastated by war and displacement. The government also imposed a complete communication block out in Western Oromia, effectively cutting the entire province from the rest of the world. As a result, even though the exact level of humanitarian suffering is not known, atrocities and hardship is continuing to damage the Oromia and the population. As we speak, protests erupted in main cities and towns throughout Oromia. After a group known as Fano has rode into Walaga and cut the heads of civilians. The protesters are demanding the end of civil war conducted by the Ethiopian government against civilians. The United States has mediated a peace process aimed solely at halting the war in the northern part, ignoring the pain and suffering endured by innocent civilians in the past 4 years in Oromia. It is disappointment to see the U.S. government, which is expected to be the hope of freedom, inviting the worst dictator of the 21st century. Therefore, we appeal to the United States and the United government and the people of America to take the following measures. One, issue public statements against the atrocities that has been committed against Oromo civilians and others in Oromia and beyond. Two, reach out to other partner governments around the world to put pressure on the Ethiopian government. We also appeal to the U.S. aid leaders to deliver humanitarian aid to the civilians which are displaced from their home. We ask all leaders of the world, the African leaders, the neighbors of Oromo people in the Horn of Africa, to stand with the victims, Oromo people, children, farmers, women, and alike. Oromo communities in North America, Washington, D.C., to December 14, 2022.